Go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to WLTM Game of the Year edition.
I like that.
Everyone's favorite internet radio podcast show thing where we talk about music, and Cameron makes loud noises into the microphone. Today we did something special this week. We did Alex, you're hilarious. We did something special this week, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to explain it?
I'll explain it. For those of you at home, Jack's on work release. And so we're recording the podcast in the foyer of the local taco. No. So what we did this week was we each of the four of us, that being Cruz, Cameron, Alex, and Jack, we made a list of some bands and artists that we enjoy, and then we had somebody else out of the four of us go and pick an album from one of those artists. So basically, we went quadruple blind on the picks, in terms of like we all picked something that I think we had no idea what it was going to be like, or at least had never heard it before. So that might be an interesting approach, and we hope that it lands us with some kind of marketing or otherwise sponsorship deal with Spotify or YouTube. and I can quit my day job.
Not been demonetized yet.
Do this full time.
Day job.
That's the theme for this
Then
week.
someone will edit the videos.
So I think it could be interesting. I think it could be interesting to see.
Intense editing.
Yeah, to see what comes of it. So how do we want to structure this? Who wants to start?
I think let's start. Okay, so let's have the person who picked the album try to introduce it, and then the person who actually knows the artist comes in and saves it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we'll start with whoever wants to go for it.
Nose goes.
Do we just want to go down the line? So we'll start with Hall & Oates.
Y'all slow.
All right, we're going down the line. Hall & Oates
was picked by Cruz Delgado.
I picked it. Okay. So I have to explain what it is.
Yeah, you have to introduce the album.
Okay.
Yeah, why'd you pick it? Maybe that'll be a good way to do it too.
So Hall & Oates is a pop opera rock band from the 70s
New metal
up until the 90s, and they're a duo. They played the synths and then they sing really well, and I picked this one because they were just both chilling on the couch. Well, that might not be them, but
that is them.
Which one's Hall and which one's
left to right?
Alright.
Oates has the hair.
They both have hair.
Is that the real names?
Yeah, Daryl, Hall, and John Oates. What I think is interesting, one of the things about this band is that they'll always be credited as Hall & Oates, like everywhere you see them, but every single thing they've ever put out is always Daryl Hall and John Oates. Like, not once are they just Hall & Oates. But Cruz pretty much hit it on the head. They're an opera band. They're just kind of a blue-eyed soul, soft rock sort of outfit from the early to mid-70s, and they had really fucking massive radio hits, and then they drop an album that has no radio hits on it. That's something a little different. This is way different than some of the shit that they've been putting out previous. Hall & Oates was one of the artists that I had suggested, and I have a lot of respect for Hall & Oates because I think that they're maybe, if not just the best singers in popular music for their time period. Yeah, some people might even, that's just kind of, how I feel about it. I think that they're absolutely incredible singers, and they really belt out some of those notes sometimes. And, yeah, shout out Hall & Oates. What did you think of the album, Cruz?
Well, I liked it when they didn't try to do classic rock. I think they're at their best when they're not performing.
I think technically they were doing rock, and then it's classic rock retroactively.
Yeah. So they were trying to do that rock thing, that rock and roll, like a Rolling Stone or something. And I don't think they did real well. But when they didn't do that, I really liked it. Like Melody for a Memory
the ballads are so much better than like
Yeah,
the songs.
the ballads I really like.
I Don't Want to Lose You, Melody from Memory, Pleasure Beach,
I
Alley
have,
Cats is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life.
have I been away too
But-
long? Yeah, Pleasure Beach is really good. But yeah, Alley Cats is disgusting. But yeah, I like
I think they
the
had a good-
hits. You know.
There's no hits on this album. That's the best part.
Damn, there is no.
I'm
hits on
gonna
this
link you. I'm gonna link you their biggest song, and you're gonna fucking. They just sing.
We'll be demonetized.
I'm not gonna. You don't play it on stream. You fucking jabroni. As the person who suggested Hall & Oates, I thought this album was all right. I had the same opinion where it's like the songs that are good are really, really good and make me want to listen, and then the songs that aren't good, I'm like, this is kind of a, slight on my reputation or something. I felt that some of them were much weaker than others, but I think that
Yeah.
Melody from Memory is might be one of the greatest soft rock pop songs ever written, and I also think that Pleasure Beach and I Don't Want to Lose You are great. And I think even on the classic rock songs, I think the vocal performances are pretty good. I mean, there's one track I feel like I remember him yodeling almost or doing some weird shit that I wasn't a huge fan of, but the fact that there's some shit that's at least consistently of some sort of quality. Because you don't really get music like this anymore, because this is some shit that could only have been made in '78. Nobody's gonna make a song like Alley Cats in 2019.
You never
For no
know,
reason.
dude.
And nobody's gonna make a song like, I don't know. I think the lyricism's pretty gritty, I would say. But in a good way.
Gritty.
Yeah, gritty in the way that a expose on crime in the inner city is
Or
gritty.
oatmeal. You know?
I liked it. It's definitely not my favorite Hall & Oates album, and I don't know if I would recommend. I think this is one of the deep cut. Once you really get into Hall & Oates, you hit them. You hit them with this.
How
If
does
that
this
makes
compare
sense.
to the other albums that you enjoy?
The other albums that I enjoy are way more ballad focused. It's the album will be 10 tracks and it'll be 9 tracks of love ballads and then 1 track of a soft funk jam. But because for people who I'd never heard this one before. My favorite Hall & Oates album is Abandoned Luncheonette, which is their second album from '73, and that's just a straight up blue-eyed soul album that I think is really high quality. I think this is one of those albums where they had a couple albums worth of hits that had good songs like Rich Girl and She's Gone and You'll Never Learn, stuff like that. And then they're like, okay, well, getting near the '80s, some of these new bands like the Clash and shit, they're doing some really fancy shit with the instruments and they're getting synthy and stuff, and they pull that out, whereas everything else was kind of like a piano and soft guitar. So they kind of just started throwing some experiments out there, yeah, let's see what we got. I think this album is quirky. I think that's a good word to describe it. I think this album is the equivalent of a girl who wears polka dot dresses to class, and that's its personality.
What the fuck?
That's a really interesting comparison.
Yo, Jack, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why are you listening to the 114L podcast episode 3?
I'm not anymore, but
Why
was-
were you?
because I was just going through some of the old ones, and I was looking at them. And then
Jack was trying to remember a time where he had the authority to make the podcast playlist.
I think we traded it off each week. It was very strange.
But yeah,
My scroll wheel stopped working on Spotify. Sad.
But okay, so Hall & Oates.
Are you familiar with Hall & Oates previous to this?
I am more familiar with Hall & Oates than I think Cruz was.
I've never heard Hall & Oates before.
What's
I-
surprising is
If
that
I
Hall
did
&
hear it,
Oates
I
is
did not recognize it.
Hall & Oates isn't dad rock. It's mom pop. There's mom pop and dad rock, and this is mom pop. This is the shit that your mom, or if your mom was alive in the '70s, unlike some people, would have. She would have. My mom fucks with Hall & Oates.
Yeah.
My dad likes Hall & Oates too, but he's
More about the new wave.
yeah, well, but the new wave. This isn't your dad's Neil Young.
Yeah, so I was familiar with the hit singles, your Private Eyes and your Rich Girls and your whatever.
I completely forgot about Private Eyes.
But
That song fucking slaps.
But this is mostly what I was expecting in terms of just being like, soft rock, blue-eyed soul stuff for like at least for the ballads.
I was gonna say they get a little heavy, dude. They get a little like closer to metal.
I was shut up. I wasn't expecting the fucking alley guys to bust in,
That shit scared me. Alley cats.
Dude, honestly, like, so I feel like I like I can dig, old school songwriting styles, where it's and like old, like I can dig like
First
soft
song.
rock and blue eyed soul. I picked the Billy Joel album a couple weeks back, which that's like more piano rock, but like it's a similar vibe. Then I also can listen to some like Japanese city pop, which similar style,
Yeah.
adult contemporary of the
The Carpenters, as you will.
and so
Jesus was a carpenter.
so yeah, I found this.
True.
It was what I was expecting, and for the most part, I enjoyed it.
They hated Jesus.
So was Jack White. And they hate Jack White too.
Got him.
You know we gotta do to Jack White then.
I don't think Jack White was a carpenter. I think he was an upholsterer.
Same thing.
Upholsterer. I'm trying to put it up his holsterer.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying, dude.
Well, anyway.
Alley cats.
Yeah, alley cats.
You think Jack White's into real anal sex?
I think
you can't bring that shit up.
You really
It's
can't.
too deep. It's too
You
fucking
should
deep
you
cut.
should definitely just make that the description.
Yeah, well.
Alright.
in defense of Alley Cats, I think that in terms of just sheer meme quality, I think Alley Cats is worth the listen.
I think it's pretty easy to ignore when you're listening to the album. I don't know. It's not so atrocious that like I couldn't block it out of my ears.
I don't even know if it's bad. I think it's just so different than everything else that's on this album, even the songs that it's similar to.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a great song, but like I didn't have much of a problem with it. But what I was gonna say is like, this is like, to me, when I heard that song, it honestly felt like they had been like commissioned to write a theme song for a TV show, but then they decided we're not going to use this theme song, so they just decided to change the lyrics and put it on the album anyway.
No, it's like it was like the theme song for a pilot of like a one-season cartoon.
Yeah.
And that was like the Alley Cats, and they were gonna be like greasers from the 50s, but cats.
Yeah.
I was playing the
Sounds like
Tetris battle.
fucking
I was playing the
care
Tetris
about it.
battle royale when that song came on. Let me tell you, going from "Have I Been Away Too Long,"
That sounds really good.
which is like I believe it's Daryl Hall singing on that song. It is. Him singing on that song, and then just going into the fucking just new wave explosion jam, Alley Cats.
Yeah, it's
So this is a jarring shift.
but yeah, so like that song was, it stands out. I also didn't care for Pleasure Beach.
You're
But I
still
didn't-
a hater.
It's whatever.
But it's because you never went to Pleasure
You're
Beach when
getting
you were in high
criticized
school.
from every angle.
I believe that the lyrics describe Pleasure Beach as not actually existing.
Yeah, it's a metaphorical place.
yeah.
They get metaphysical with it.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a saxophone solo. How can you not like it?
Shut up.
Obviously,
It's
if
just
it's too
so
loud, we're
blatant.
gonna get demonetized.
I feel like
So,
if that was at a disco in the 1970s and they put on like Pleasure Beach or Alley Cats, you could have caught me cutting a rug on the dance floor. I'll tell you that much. And you all know I don't dance.
Yeah, we know.
She knows.
But I want to specifically call out the song "Have I Been Away? Have I Been Away?" I did not care for that, like the way he was singing the chorus, which it's not even
That was
like
really good.
it's not even like I don't dislike the lyrics, and I don't necessarily dislike the like general curve of the vocal melody, but like the way that it's like so much of like it's so like ad-libbed, and he's like trying to like really do it different every time, just have I been away, and he's just like, and it's like, oh stop, you're
Sounds like
not,
something Lou would do.
I respect that it doesn't sound bad,
it doesn't sound that bad, but like it's I really would rather it be
It
just
could
like
have
a
been
more
worse.
consistent like
You
rhythm
can
and
have
melody
Death by
to the.
Rami on vocals.
Goddamn.
I'd rather the
Death by
vocal
Rami's
melody.
voice is deeper than both of these niggas' voices combined. TBH.
And that's the problem.
It's kind of hot.
But the thing is, like, I feel like that chorus from "Haven't Been Away" is like that, it's like
It's really good.
it feels like that should be sung by like a Michael Jackson kind of person, you know?
Well, this
I
is
feel like-
78.
it feels-
They
it
wrote
feels
all
like-
their own shit.
It feels like, you know, I was just waiting for just like them to bust out like a, you know, just like fucking. It was. I didn't think that style of performance for the chorus fit his voice very well, but it's a pretty good song anyway.
I'm looking at the credits and like the who played what and stuff. Fucking dude from King Crimson was playing on "Don't Blame It on Love." Hell yeah. Robert Fripp, who was the guitarist. This is also apparently the first album that they ever used their road band instead of using solo session musicians.
Hell yeah.
So, which I think is a fascinating
That's a
approach.
session musician.
Shout out to using your road band.
That's actually that's a good practice actually. Like
Well, I
like,
mean, you get
that's-
used to like playing the show with them.
It's
But
almost
then,
like
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
real band.
yeah, but what if their road band doesn't sound good?
I mean, the thing
Well,
is,
then they
like,
wouldn't have used them.
the thing is like when you like in a lot of these situations in like the like 60s and 70s when you had you know these artists where like the artist is just the front man or the front men in this case, where it's just like they're the only people who are actually credited. It's like when you go into the studio to record the album, like the producer is often like really hesitant to like let them just use their like touring band because they don't trust it. And
Yeah.
so like it was I'm pretty sure like the exact same like story happened with like Billy Joel on the album of his that I picked the other couple weeks
week.
back.
6 weeks ago.
Trolling.
Yeah,
Yes.
many weeks back.
I hate the other. Insert amount of
But
length of time.
Well, because
But,
Daryl Hall and John, they play instruments. They just can't. They don't play every instrument. They play
yeah,
on.
I mean
they don't just
like,
sing.
that's the same thing with Billy Joel. Billy Joel like plays the piano and like plays, and I'm pretty sure he plays something else too.
He plays the harmonica.
Don't quote me. But yeah, so it's like when you do get the producer to trust you to like use your touring band. It's yeah.
Well, hell yeah. Shout out to
Yeah.
touring band.
Good thought.
I just don't know how I feel about like. I don't know. Like, I know that's how you're gonna play it live, but I feel like when you play it live, there's always gonna be like a lull in quality anyway because you're playing it live and not on the album. So like, there's almost a. If you're like with Michael Jackson or somebody, or like Hall and Oates or somebody who like. Your act isn't you as a band; it's you as like the
person.
single person. It almost makes more sense to me for the practice to be like, we're just gonna have some session guys because like then we can at least get the highest quality sound. Then when we play it live, it's like, well, it's just the instruments, so it's not gonna sound that different. I mean, that's just my philosophy. I respect that they're doing their thing though, because I mean, Hall and Oates are much more gifted than I am. There's one person that we haven't heard from yet. Cameron, what did you think about the 1970s album?
So
As the earliest piece of music you've ever listened to?
untrue. I've listened to some
If I read the Beatles one week.
traditional African click clacks in my day. Alright.
Are you
So-
telling me that's not what this is?
So how do I want to start this? There's 3 ways I can start.
Why don't you just get to the end?
Get to the end? Nah. So I just looking at the 2 niggas on the couch. I figured that this is gonna be another country album.
True.
Because I
They
don't
don't
know.
look that
I saw the date and I saw the couch and I saw the mustache. I was like, all right, we're back at it again.
Yeah. Once again.
Another country album. What was the first country album?
Fucking bluegrass country, same shit. Suck my dick. So I only have a vague memory of each individual song. And that's not for the reason you're thinking. Alright.
What, did you have sex with this album or something?
If you like it so much, you should marry Cameron.
So yeah, I don't know. It would be a lie for me to say that I felt like one long song, but I don't know. I was just chilling. Well, whenever it was on, I was never looking at the song counts or anything.
I will say that it's not the highest rated album in the week for me either.
So, interestingly enough, this is your first 5, Alexander.
Oh, that is interesting.
Y'all are haters.
Seeing as I didn't even pick it.
Y'all are haters. See, that's why I was telling you, a couple days ago that I was gonna change the system.
Just to save my average?
I felt like it would be unfair to you for your first 5 to just go to Cruise.
Yes.
I mean, like I said, if you I understand the way your system works and that it works better this way.
You didn't explain what you're doing this week because it's special.
Well, all I'm saying is I understand that
you hadn't heard it either, but at least you're a fan of these 2 niggas. Whereas Cruz just picked it to cause whatever, you know.
Because they're just chilling on the couch, dude. What the fuck?
Maybe I shouldn't argue too much with getting my first 5.
I mean, I don't know. I was very surprised to come in here and to just chill here and find out that I like the album more than any of you combined. But this shit slaps. So I don't know what y'all are hearing.
You need to listen to some more Hollow Notes.
I never said anything bad about this album. I didn't get to say anything. This is my favorite album this week.
If anything, my critique is just it's pretty good.
Same, honestly.
What it is, the ballads are 9s and 10s, and the other songs are 5s or 6s even. I think Alley Cats is actually a 5.5. It's just.
The more you listen, the more you love. You know.
It's a fun song.
I don't know. All I can say is don't blame it on love. Big banger.
That means it's like bangers playlist.
It's maybe it's close at least, but I'm not sure.
Vibe.
Don't blame it on love is big banger though, and then the second half of the album is a lot better than the first half. Overall, Melly for Memory was kind of boring, but whatever.
Hater.
I just remember the album getting better as time went on. So by the end, I don't remember what August Day sounds like at all, but Pleasure Beach slap. But what did August Day sound like? I just remember
August Day is a vocal edited little.
Oh yeah, it's the fade out. Yeah, but I always by the end of the album I'm just in it, you know.
Yeah.
Shit sounded good, so I fucked with it. It might be slightly carried by the technical fact that I thought it was gonna be a country album, and then I just got surprised when It's a Laugh came on. But who the hell knows? But
I'll take that. Is it easier or harder for me to get a 5 than other people? Would you say, in general?
I mean, if a 5 isn't going to if it's a 5, it's a 5. If someone picks a 5, though, it's gonna happen. There's only how many of them? 1, 2, 3, 4, including this one.
Everybody's a fucking.
That's it. So it's too rare. I will say that this is the lowest 5. It's actually a very low 5. But it is a 5. It's incredibly low 5. But it's just good enough for me to say that I love it. Because I actually fuck with it that much. But, what are you going to do?
And like I said, though I appreciate the words, I do, and I know that it works better for your system, but I guess technically Cruz did pick it. But I do understand your reasoning.
I mean, I'm not sure. Coming here and finding out that none of y'all even like the album that much, and maybe I might change it back to giving Cruz the 5. I'm not sure yet. I might have to revoke it. Like, I'm not
if,
sure.
if you gotta do it, you gotta do it. You know?
Yeah, I don't know.
What did you think, Cruz? Since you didn't apparently you didn't get to say
I thought
anything.
it was really good.
Okay.
It's my favorite album this week. It's easy to listen to.
Yeah, it's this is what
It's actually my favorite album this week as well.
Something I forgot to say. I do want to shout out the chorus on the opening track. It's a laugh because I really like just the ascending melody where it's so, and like the backing vocals to the
what I think one thing that's really like kind of what you were saying about the whole idea of like the like back in the day like retro-ish kind of songwriting is that like I mean even though you could definitely say that a lot of or maybe all of pop music like just in general is always vocally driven, like this is a kind of vocally driven pop soft rock sort of sound that I think isn't something you really run into all that much because it's like nothing about the instrumental at all. Like the instrument, like it's like the instrumental is just there so that there's a melody for the vocals to go over almost. Like there's nothing about this that I think is like instrumental. Which like nowadays you at least have, you know, a banger beat or something. I think this kind of like style, like maybe died in the mid '80s ish, maybe even into the '90s kind of. Actually, maybe. But and I think it's interesting that you know people like Hall & Oates, fucking two dudes in like their mid 30s, probably around their mid 30s, when this album came out, we're keeping the torch lit for having good quality singing.
Yeah, one of the reasons I brought up the idea of like old school songwriting is because like there really is with this like with albums, especially like when you get before the 80s, and especially when you get stuff that's like pop rock and stuff before the 80s, it's like it's really clear that the music is often just like written within like it's just like it's about the vocal melody and it's about like okay, I'm a guy on a guitar or on a piano, I'm going to write the chords out and then I'm going to come up with the melody and that's it. Really everything else, all the instrumentation, how it's arranged doesn't actually matter all that much in terms of like how the song is written. And that's like something that this is like, and this is like a real exemplar of that kind of songwriting. It's a traditional songwriting really, where it's all about, you know, chords, top line melody, and that's something that a lot of modern music doesn't really do that much, which is kind of disappointing because a lot of
maybe that's why Alley
Cats. Well, I mean, Alley Cats does feel
because
like
there's a guitar solo in it.
I mean, it's not like just that. It's like Alley Cats does feel like a song that was written in that same way. It just doesn't. It's just
I feel like
it doesn't feel like it was written for the same purpose as the other songs.
I feel like if I was gonna make a list of like order these songs in order of like how much I think was put into the instrumental, I would definitely put Alley Cat's number one though. I feel like if there's any song that was like almost more instrumental focused than vocally focused, it was that one.
It's not necessarily about like being instrumentally focused per se, because it's like, you know, that kind of method of songwriting gives you like tons and tons of room to like to do interesting stuff with instrumental on top of it, because you know you don't have to just follow the blueprint and just do it when you actually sit down to record the song. And yeah, when you, I think if Alley Cats does feel like it was written not for the same purpose as the other ones.
They tried to write a fucking club banger.
Kind of, I guess. I guess you could call it a club banger.
And so they play this shit at the disco.
I don't know if they'd like it at the disco much, but you know, it's a club. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Songwriting died.
Yeah, songwriting is kind of a lost art.
But for those of you out there trying to get back to your roots, Daryl Hall and John Oates, Along the Red Ledge, or anything that came out before this album, or 1982's H2O, containing the ultimate smash hit single Man-Eater. Any of these.
Oh, they did Man-Eater?
Yeah, that was their song.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I do.
I get the reference.
I do know this popular American tune.
Yes, this cultural hit.
All right. Are we gonna just go down the list?
Does anybody else have anything else they would like to add about Along the Redheads, Daryl Hall and John Oates, 1978?
Y'all are haters.
All right.
I gave it a 6.
Yeah, I would give it a 6 or a 7. Okay. So
The next
I
album.
picked the album from Cameron's list. And I chose the artist Protomartyr because the name sounds radical, and I chose the album Undercolor of Official Right because it's a cool album name. It has a baller album cover with an angry dog. I don't know anything about the band. The music is some post punk shit, which I dig, and Cameron said this is their worst album. So Cameron, how do you feel? Tell us about Protomartyr.
I should say it's the worst album on Spotify. All right.
Oh yeah, because I did see that this is.
They have an album before this. It's not on Spotify. They don't like that one for some reason. I don't know.
These guys look old.
It's pretty aight, but
These are like some old dudes.
The lead singer's old. Everyone else is like in their 20s.
That's true. The lead singer kind of looks like
the guy on the bike in the front is a photo bomber.
He kind of looks like the guy from Swans. Anyway, irrelevant.
I don't know what the dude from Swans looks like, but yeah. So I haven't listened to their very first album in fucking eons. So I mean, whatever. I have it on Foodbar, but
rest in peace.
I never listened to it. So this how do I fucking introduce this bullshit? This is the worst album. Of the three that matter. The main problem with it is that it doesn't feel like an album. It feels like a mixtape with a bunch of like real tiny ass songs that like I feel like they themselves didn't feel were interesting enough to flesh out into full length songs. So they just like cut the shit at 2 minutes. Homie Joe wrote some lyrics and they just kept it moving. Which is a philosophy I respect, but it doesn't make for a great album. Interesting enough, the first time I heard this shit, I really liked it, because how I found this band was just finding a YouTube video for this album just on Spotify. I was like, damn, I really like this, and I listened to Agent Intellect was out at the time. I listened to that, and I was like, wait, this is better. And then they came out with their third album or fourth album, and I was like, wait, this is better than everything else. So I never listened to this again. So this is the first time I listened to it in like at least 3 years probably. And actually, is it 3 years? 2 years. I have a lot of interesting memories of chilling on the bus in senior year, just listening to this album. Just waiting for my dad to come get me and shit like that.
On the bus?
Well, yeah, the bus would drop me off at like this place, and I walk across the street, and then I have to get my dad to come pick me up.
Gotcha.
It was a whole process.
Yeah, it's a fucking rescue mission.
Yeah, pretty much. So, one of my main problems with this album also is that I feel like in a lot of the songs, one of the best examples is Trust Me, Billy. I feel like there seems to be like a large void in the higher pitched regions of the human hearing range. Like when I listen to a lot of the songs, I feel like there should be something higher pitched. Like the guitar should just be like up 2 octaves or some shit, and it would just sound a lot better. And because when everything is just like low pitched, like the homie sings like super low, he just like this baritone shit, and the guitar's low, and the bass is of course low, and then the drums are the drums. It feels like something's missing.
Well, there's no cymbals on that song either. There's no like hi-hat.
That might have something to do with it.
It's all just Yeah. So there's nothing like
So
there's
that would
no
explain a lot
yeah
also.
yeah there's no
I guess
upper
symbols would
upper region
supply
anything
that.
on it. I just noticed
Yeah.
that. I didn't actually notice it the first time through, but I'm listening to it and he's just playing on like just his drums.
Yeah.
He's not bebopping.
So that song gives me cancer. Because of that, and the other songs they do it too, but not as badly. His lyrics are also a lot worse on this album. They're most of them aren't very interesting. Some of them are interesting, like Maidenhead's. Maidenhead's not actually interesting. It's very just direct. It's like, Ilma, I don't care about anything. And then What the Wall Said is pretty. I really like that song. Tarpeian Rock is very amusing because the concept of that song is the Tarpeian Rock is like some ancient Greek rock that they threw you off of when they wanted to execute you. I think it was Greek or Roman, one of those. And so in the song, he's just naming a bunch of people that he thinks should be executed, thrown from the rock. It's a wild ass list. So some of them I agree with. Yeah, Rome makes more sense. In Greece they just poison niggas for the most part.
Well, and, yeah, it looks more like a Roman name too.
Yeah. Yeah, so
or they just poison you. Yeah, that's true.
He has some wild bullshit in his list. He had credit card users. He had what else? He had most bands ever, which is pretty good. Terrible bartenders. I can't remember any of the other ones. There's a lot. Emotional cripples. I remember that one. But he doesn't remember the lyrics either because whenever he plays this song live, he can never remember the lyrics, so he just makes up shit just as he goes, which is pretty funny. He didn't play this song live when I went to go see them, which is unfortunate. And this album just ends. Like, it's just going, and then all of a sudden it just, like, I'll take the applause as just the last song, and then it ends. It doesn't feel like a last song at all.
Yeah, I thought the ending was weird too, because it, like, Come and See feels like a finale song, and then there's 2 more songs after it that don't feel like...
Yeah, they're like...
Yeah,
bonus tracks to pad out the 34-minute runtime. I don't know.
Yeah.
Come and See really does feel like, a finale song, and then Violent is just there to troll. I swear to God, this is a different version of the album than the one I heard, low key, because the little sample at the beginning of "I'll Take That Applause," I swear I've never heard that in my life before. Like, I don't know. I'm too lazy to actually go like check YouTube, but I don't think that was there originally. But I'm really not sure. And I have a love-hate relationship with Violent, so it should just ended before. Unfortunately, it's not their best, but it's a stepping stone to things to come. This album is still a 4 because I still actually like it. It's just comparatively to the albums that come next, this shit is like, it's not it at all. But what are you gonna do? So yeah, what do y'all think?
I mostly agree with like the major complaints about the album that you have. I enjoyed this a lot, but I did feel that a lot of the songs were just really short, and they felt like the most interesting songs were the ones that they actually bothered to make 3 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
So it was yeah. I do think it could have been like structured better, where like with like Come and See as the finale, because that felt weird. Like every time I listened to it, and I was like, oh, that was a good album. And then there's another song. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. I don't listen to a lot of post-punk. I've listened to enough that I can like feel generally like where this comes from and like what is a little different about it. There's some songs that are just like just punk songs, which is it's nice that they switch it up sometimes. I think that there's like this there's like this weird tendency with like the vocal performances in like post-punk stuff to I don't know how to describe it. It's like it is kind of like just kind of speaking.
Yeah.
And in a way, it almost feels like
this man talks notes.
It feels like Mark Kozlik's solo rap album. That is in there.
What a comparison!
So
it really does. Also, like with how also with the lyrics themselves, a lot of time it feels like he's just kind of telling you a story, except he doesn't. A lot of times the story doesn't have like real abstraction. It's just like he's just saying some shit.
Yeah. So I do think that the lyrics are probably are a bit much on that kind of like bluntness, both in terms of like how they're performed and how they're written, but well, otherwise I enjoyed this a lot. Good listen.
What do you think, Cruz? As the resident punk.
So, well, I'm not punk enough for punk, and I'm not folk enough for folk, so I'm funk.
Yikes. We'll get to that.
And what was it? I think it was it wasn't too bad. I thought it was a vaporwave. I thought these guys were vaporwave. Because I remember Cameron put something on in the car, and he's like, "This is Protomartyr," and then everything is mixed up that day. So I thought this was vaporwave.
We listened to a lot of music that day.
We listened. I specifically remember the album cover of the Greek statue, or the statue face guy.
Yeah.
This is a very vaporwave.
Yeah, this is the vaporwave thing.
I do have that on cassette. It's chilling. Where is it? It's right here.
Damn, this is not vaporwave. I was.
We did not listen to any vaporwave that day. I want you to know I have no vaporwave cassettes.
All right, so I'm high, but I thought it was vaporwave, and I was like, okay, I'm ready for some vaporwave. And I was greeted with a man who likes to talk, and then people with instruments behind him. And I don't know. I get this cake vibe, but the guy with cake actually like goes with instruments. This guy just talks. And I really respect that. I really respect that he like, you know, you meet Phil at the coffee shop and he's like, yeah, I want to start a band, and you're like, okay, well, we're just gonna play the songs we've already made, and you can just stand up there. And he's like, okay, I got you, son.
That is actually supposedly how they make their songs, like all their songs. Like the three people with the instruments just like make the song, and then he just adds vocals.
All right, so I hit the nail on the head. What's going on? So I want to point out that I listened to this album, and then today is the first time I listened to my Discover Weekly for the week, and fucking Maidenhead was on there. And I want you to know how the double take I took to be like, okay, this is not the podcast playlist, right? This is not. What the fuck? I was like, okay, well, I do like Maidenhead, so I thought that was good. So I wasn't too upset. I do. My favorite parts are Maidenhead, Tarpeian Rock, I Stare at Floors, and Come and See. I don't remember Violent, or I'll take the applause. 100% don't remember those songs. Didn't know they existed until y'all pointed them out. To be 100%
I respect that.
But it's not something you should. No, look, because one of them is just like the excerpt, right? Like there's talking. Like there's actually just no music.
No,
they both have music.
Oh yes.
There's no skits on this album.
Oh, okay.
Damn. Where are my skits?
But there's just this funny feeling when you listen to the guy talk, and I'm like, this just feels so familiar. It kind of feels like, man, who does this? The song's not called Handlebars.
It's the Flowbots.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Flowbots and Cake. Like if you took the Flowbots and you took the Cake guy and you put them together. This is what that guy reminds me. That's all that I kept thinking about. I was like, man, what is that band that made Handlebars? And I never looked it up.
It's the Flowbots.
But I just kept thinking about, thought it was really good. That was cool. I'll definitely listen to the next album they make, The Agent Intellect. That is definitely vaporwave. 100%. Maybe I shouldn't, because I think of a vaporwave album when I see that, so I don't know why.
Were you not there when I went on like that 4-hour rant about punk music after the show last week? That was because of this
he probably
album.
just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him.
I remember you talking about,
Yeah, that was the whole reason I just brought that up.
That's why I started, because I was like, yeah, this is post-punk, so, you know, get ready. Smile.
And then I went on a fucking rampage.
Yeah.
Because for the listeners at home, not a huge fan of regular punk music, because I don't like punks.
Didn't think this was punk music. I thought this is music for people who have ears.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Goddamn.
It's not punk music. It's post-punk. It's past all that shit.
We'll call it hardly art like that.
Because, you know, in my book, if you got your hair grown, like, past your ears, you're a fucking punk and you should be eradicated.
Damn.
And, you know, etc.
We take
and
those.
I think...
My hair grows past my ears.
I'm really just not a fan of what punk stands for, but Under Color of Official Right, Protomartyr, good album. Best album this week.
Shit.
I like the vocal performance and delivery is everything I could ask for and more. It reminds me, like, obviously of, well, not obviously, but it reminds me of the guy. It reminds me of some, like, really early Interpol for some reason. He sounds like exactly like.
I mean,
the fucking
Interpol
singer.
is post-punk.
But he sounds exactly the same. He's the same guy. He sounds exactly the fucking same.
That's just like that is just the post-punk like vocal
I'm
style.
just saying, it sounds exactly. So that was cool. I like that there's.
I know how much you love your Interpol.
At least half of this album has drums without cymbals, which I really respect. Because personally, I'm not a huge fan of like hi-hats or anything or rides or in songs. I really just like when they
reverse snares,
muck around with the snares and the toms and shit. I really respect it because
belt buckles.
It makes everything feel much more like rhythmic and less like. It's just something about like. I like it a lot. The main reason I like it a lot is because it's jazz music. It makes it feel a lot more like. I don't want to say groovy because it's like, I don't know. It's just like it makes the rhythm feel a lot more like, almost good, when it's just like. The raw drums, and then you don't have to have the cymbal because the cymbals don't really follow. They just go the whole time. They keep like the tempo going. I think it's interesting, at least in something like this. And I think it's interesting. Like, I like that a lot of the songs do like the slow, fast, slow formula. They kind of build up to a point and they go. I didn't notice any of the lyrics on this album at all. I do think I recall very vaguely him saying credit card users at some point. But I don't necessarily think that, like, I think that's almost a good thing. Because the part of the album that I like the most is the instruments, and I think letting the instruments take a lot more like, especially since his vocals are, like, kind of far back in the mix on some of these songs. Or at least, like, level with it. Where you can't really hear what he's saying sometimes anyway, like even if you were trying, it kind of gets mudded out. I think it's kind of a good move. I think I'd be interested, if this is the worst album, or the worst of what they have on Spotify, be interested to see what the other stuff is like, if it really, if it moves away from this and that's why it's better, or if it's more of just the good parts of this but better. Be interested to see. This was the highest rated album this week. I really enjoyed it.
What'd you give it?
I gave it a 7.
Oh,
which
wow.
maybe it might not seem like high praise given how much I said I liked it, but I didn't think that there was like it's like a 7.7 maybe. Like if I rounded up instead of just rounding to the rounding down to the whole numbers, I'd probably give it an 8. But it's like I don't really know how to explain it. There was just like I wanted the album to be a lot more of just like the kind of slow, chill vibe, and there was a little too much of like the faster instrumentation that I wasn't a huge fan of.
You might not like the next albums then. Most of it isn't they increased the BPM a little on the following albums. At least on a lot of the songs.
The first song's really good. Maidenhead's a really good song. I'm listening to it now that Cruz said that it was really good, and I forgot that this was this song, and this song's really good.
Shout out.
Because I had this album looping. I put this album on a loop, and so I didn't really know where it ended and where it started until I like would remember like halfway through. I think I heard that song before. Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't understand the Come and See 2 songs after it. I was like, I mean, maybe I did think that it was the end of the album, but it just goes anyway. But Protomartyr, Undercolor Official Right. More like Undercolor of All Right With Me. So I still think I don't like punk music, but if post-punk's really similar to this, then maybe I like post-punk more.
Dude, you liked Interpol, right?
I liked the one Interpol album I've ever listened to.
Is it Turn on the Bright Lights?
It's Turn on the Bright Lights. No, it's Undercolor of Official Bright Lights.
I guarantee you that you will like post-punk music then. Other post-punk music.
God, the last thing I need is like another genre of music. What a waste of time. I already liked 2 of them.
Now you can listen to Joy Division and you can buy the T-shirt and then all the art.
I already had the T-shirt. I listened to Joy Division. Is that post-punk? I thought that was just punk.
No, that's Joy Division is post-punk.
What the fuck? And the Joy Division singer sounds.
I think those albums are overrated, but.
Oh yeah, the Joy Division albums are total singer died core.
Save it for the podcast.
It's ultra singer died core. I mean, I'm never picking it, so I don't know which one of y'all will.
The way I always think about it is if my dad likes an album that came out when he was alive, it's probably not that good. And that's not universally true, but sometimes, if it's like something like that, it's usually true. If he's like, yeah, man, that first Joy Division album, I'm like, yeah, dude, when you were like a lonely college boy in the army, dude. No wonder you were into it, dude.
Yeah, it's actually singer died core to the 10th degree. Well, I mean, rest in peace, though. I
need to listen to some more singer died core.
I don't know. He's probably influential.
Speaking of singer died core, one of the bands I did put up for this in my list this week was Sublime.
Rest in peace.
And that kind of is.
He's living through his son, who's also
living on through the needle, on the record and in your arm. Anyway. Did anybody else have any?
Died like 6 days after he got married too.
Bradley Noel. Yeah, I hate to see it. Don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah, but then she was left with all the money.
I don't know about that because there was, but I think. Well, we'll save it for the Sublime theme podcast. We'll save all the politics for there.
The only politics I'm into is politics with a Z.
Alley cats, alley politics. Does anybody else have any thoughts about Undercolor? I don't like the album title either, because I kept reading it as Undercolor of Official Light because that makes more sense than Official Right having a color.
Undercolor of Official Right is it's like a government term for when someone in an official position does something that like they abuse their power essentially. That's called being Undercolor of Official Right. I think it's like a British term.
It's like a 7.5 now. Using government terms in the lyrics, song title, or name of your album that makes you a punk.
I give it a not vaporwave out of 10.
Speaking of punks, the next album we have this week is the Red album by Baroness.
Hell yeah.
Which is a
post-punk album.
I looked it up and I think they're from Georgia. So I don't know what kind of wild shit.
They're from Savannah, Georgia.
Are they signed from Greyface?
They're quite literally the homies.
I'll tell you one thing. I've been to Savannah. I've been to Savannah, Georgia, and
if they're local, then they're signed to Greyface, right? What's their fucking?
No, they're signed. They're this album.
The Savannah label. What the fuck? You're not.
Shut up, Cruz.
Just because they're from Savannah doesn't mean that they're in the local Savannah scene. This band is 144,000. There's a girl in this band.
Now there is. There was not.
God, I fucking love this band.
She's a recent addition.
I gotta fucking change the rating now.
Was she on Purple?
No, she was not. She.
Well, I go next.
Oh, so she's ultra new.
Yeah, she's new, very new.
Anyway, Baroness, the Red album, not to be confused with Weezer, self-titled Weezer. This is an album from a band.
Music was better when Rivers beat his wife.
It's metal music, I would say. It's there is some high points and some low points on here. This is not, I think, my kind of metal. personally, at least this album isn't. Who knows what other kind of maybe some of their other stuff is more in my boat. I know that one of Jack's all-time. This was Jack's band that I picked from. I know one of his favorite albums is Purple, which is I believe their most recent.
Yes, it is their most recent.
I know Jack's a very big fan of that one, so I picked the other one that was kind of a more reasonable length, just so that we wouldn't have to jack off the album.
You were actually, you didn't choose Blue because you thought it was a double album, but it was live tracks on the second disc. It was.
But I still think. Well, I guess that's what I'm looking at it now. So that's like a half hour of it. It would have been about the same length as the rest of it. Yeah. Yellow and Green would have been the longest one because it's 2 albums.
It's actually 2 albums, yeah.
I do like all their album covers. I think the art is very cool, and I think
the singer actually does the art.
I think that's pretty impressive. I think it's very high quality art.
He's also done some work for some other bands, some other ones in like the local Savannah scene. Okay. And
I thought there was only rappers in Savannah. I've been to Savannah, Georgia, and I've walked around some parts of Savannah, Georgia. And if I was like, man, I wonder if there's one band that I think came from Savannah, Georgia, I wouldn't imagine the sound of Baroness. Yeah, true. I would imagine the sound of Blueface.
Yeah, apparently there is or kind of was a small like sludge metal scene in Savannah, which
I think a lot of just music scenes in Savannah or like in general, because Savannah's a pretty big city. I think a lot of it just gets overshadowed by anything that happens in Atlanta because that's such a bigger scene for everything.
Yeah.
It makes me. This is not what I would call. This is not what I would expect people from the South. South of the Mason-Dixon. This is. I thought this would have been like maybe some boys from like Oregon or Seattle or something. Or I thought that the whole time I thought Baroness was European to some degree because of the album covers. Honestly, had a very continental vibe to me. Maybe mainland Europe of some variety.
But we are the continent. We're the what's it called?
I don't think you know what the word means, Cruz.
We're the
keep thinking about it.
I can't remember the word. Not the territory. What was it?
The states.
No.
The colonies.
The colonies. That's what starts with the C.
Wow. Goddamn. Stay in school, kids.
Yeah. Don't go to engineering school.
Yeah. So Baroness. Yeah, they are a band from Savannah, Georgia. The singer is now the only original member left in the band.
I wonder what part of Savannah they're from.
I have no idea.
They're from where they filmed Forrest
Gump. It's not exactly the largest city.
Yeah, but there's some fucking. Well, I just looked at Baroness and it's just like telling me about nobility. Mm-hmm. I'll get back to you on this check.
So the singer's done art for some other bands, and he's done like some like promotional art and T-shirts and stuff for like some big name bands like Metallica and stuff before.
Who the fuck's Metallica?
Fuck big name bands.
Yeah, what the fuck?
You never heard of them?
This album and the one after it, I would say are progressive sludge metal, or as Matt calls it, budget mastodon. Which
before you can, I think when I submitted my rating for this album on Radio Music, just so I had a record of what I gave it, I think everybody on that was either like, this is budget Mastodon or this is better than Mastodon. That was like the only comparison that anybody had to give was to Mastodon. So I'm not in this scene. Is that like the big, like, is that like the apex of the scene?
Yeah, Mastodon are kind of the big boys in sludge metal, and
did they invent it?
No. And like you could argue that like some of their stuff is like a lot more just progressive metal than sludge metal.
Like they're only this band's only like 3 years newer than Baroness is. That's not even what the fuck.
Yeah, but most if you like constantly like discussions about like what are the best like sludge metal and progressive metal albums, you'll see like Mastodon's second, fourth albums just like come up always. They're also from Georgia, so it's also another. They're from Atlanta, so yeah. There's a lot of reasons for the comparison, and it's a fair comparison for the most part. I personally like Baroness better, but they do have their differences.
There's no blast beats.
We're in the wrong genre for blast beats.
Yeah, wrong genre.
fucking
Knowing as little as I do about
it's
this, I
not
feel like
real
this
metal
is.
without blast beats.
I feel like blast beats would make this much more awkward if everything else was the same, and it was
More
just blast
interesting.
beats. It'd be like Blueface. They'd be going off beat.
Dude, when's Blueface gonna do some blast beats?
Pretty sure Blueface just dropped a new song. But let's whatever. So I found Baroness because I think I was trolling around and like looking at the Grammy noms like one year in like 2016, and one of their songs from Purple was nominated, and I was like, what's this band? And I checked them out, and I was like, oh, this is good. And I listened to all of it. The Red album is probably my second favorite by them. The Purple is a lot more accessible. I'd say it's definitely like trying to go for a more mainstream audience, I guess. But yeah. Yeah. What'd you think of it, Alex?
Well, personally, so for preface, I'm not really huge in the metal scene, period, and I definitely know next to nothing about sludge metal, which I only found out this is what that was by looking up what they would call this genre. I had like a.
Do you want to like a for reference about like what that genre is supposed to be?
Well, I think I get the like it's the kind of thing where I've seen the name and I know what sorts of like I know that it's just basically it's like a slower, like heavier sort of vibe, but not to the point where it's like doom.
I'd almost call it like faster stoner doom.
Yeah, because you get to the point where it's like you have your speed metal and then you have your slow shit, and this is like it's not the exact midpoint, but it's like the midpoint between the midpoint between the midpoint between the really fast shit and the really slow shit.
Yeah, it's very much like it's about like alternating between really fast and really slow sections, and like having kind of trying to get the best of both worlds between like, you know, the slow stoner doom stuff and like the faster like punky thrash stuff.
But this definitely has elements of like heavier metal. Like there's like the vocals. I mean, it's not all like there's like normal vocals, but I think there's at least a couple points where it's a little closer to maybe not pure, just like growls or screams, but like kind of getting in that direction a little bit. And the vocals are easily my least favorite part about the album, personally. I think the instrumentals are all pretty good, except for that one classical guitar song in the middle of the album.
You're a hater.
A Cockroach en Fleur. Was not a huge fan of that one, personally. But I think that like all the instruments are like it's weird because some of the songs where it doesn't get that heavy, like Wailing Wintry Wind, like near the middle portion, it almost gets to like a chill math rock vibe, kind of like just because it's like I don't know, I don't know how to explain, but it's just like something about the way that like everything's playing together. And then he comes back in and starts yelling a little bit, and I really just don't like the vocals very much, and I don't really like the pacing in that like everything doesn't. It's not like you have. I don't think I like in this type of genre with this type of sound the not constant switch, but even just the switch between like faster sections and slower sections in songs. I think I would much prefer if it was more like centralized on either this is the fast song or this is the slow song, because I think that gives a lot more of like a not necessarily like a sense of pace to the album, but it makes the songs. I feel like it makes the way that it's structured makes it seem like some of the songs are like almost two songs combined into one. Because you have these different, it's like we're gonna write a section, we're gonna put it on this song, and then we're gonna write another section, and we'll just put it on the end of this song or put it in there. And I'm sure there's much more into it than, and I'm sure they're not just randomly putting shit together, but that's what kind of the sound was to me. But I think the instrumental performance on this album is pretty fantastic. I really like the drums. I think the guitar is alright. I like when the guitar doesn't get so distorted and you can kind of hear I like when it's a little cleaner. I think Wailing Wintry Wind's probably my favorite song on the album. And I like the outro on that song too. I like that the song builds up to something instead of it being like multiple different Like,
Unique.
I like the build up. I like metal music that has a build up element, and I think that's one of the only songs that I really felt that. I don't know if I'm interested enough to look at other sludge metal, but I think I am intrigued enough to see what else specifically this band has to offer. If for no other reason than I really like the art.
Yeah.
And the instruments.
Given some of your like specific complaints, I do think that you might like Purple better. It's that album has, much more like the songs are much less, like varied in terms of like tempo. They actually, a lot of them have like much more of like a build up over the song. And the vocals are also, they're better. I actually agree with you that the vocals are probably they're my least favorite part of this album, and it's not because I dislike the the approach, but more so that I dislike the like how it actually just ends up, where like some of the ways he's yelling just doesn't sound good to me. I don't
think the instruments are heavy enough for some of the vocal like stuff that he's going. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like some of the vocals. It's like he thinks he's in like a lighter death metal band.
Right. Yeah, I think the vocals are still, it's still like, there's still a lot of like screaming, like yelling and screaming as like the primary form, like a dirty vocal. But I do think the vocals on the Purple album are more refined, I guess you could say, and I think you probably might like that album better.
Well, and to be fair to them, this is what, their second album?
This is their well, actually, yeah, and technically it is their second. It's their first album is actually a split album with another band, so you can
Gotcha.
It's really just an EP for them. So I would say that this is their first album, really.
Nowhere but up from there.
Yeah.
What did you think, Cameron?
I hate. It gives me absolute cancer that it's called the Blue Record.
Oh, the Red album and then the Blue Record.
I also hate that it's the Red. I'm fine with the Red album. It would be alright if it were the Blue Record, and then like maybe it's like, okay, it's the same color, and then you're using like a different like you're using a synonym for album, and then maybe it's like the yellow and green LP. Like you did like the Saints Row thing almost, where they do a different like sequel convention each time. But it gives me cancer to go to the page and look at Blue Record Deluxe version.
Did Purple blow up? There's way more merch for like all the merch that I see advertised everywhere is just for that album.
I know Purple's like the famous one.
Purple is I think it was their biggest and it's their most acclaimed. And
gotcha. What does this rank on your list? I know it's on your list.
It's like
I think I had Purple in my top 10 at one in my top 5 at one point. I redid my chart recently. It's like I'm not it didn't really like sort it too strictly, but like I'd say it's somewhere in like the 10 to 15 range.
Gotcha. You're a punk. Sorry, Kevin, continue.
So as for this album in particular, shout out to the homies, Low Country, type shit. This album was basically one long song, as a standard, because pretty much, unless you give me a really good reason for something not to be one long song, it's probably gonna sound like one long song. And I fucked with it. I liked his shouting, and I liked the mixture between slow and fast. It didn't like bore me like Primitive Man, but it also
yikes. What a deep reference.
That's a deep reference, but it also, I don't know, it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't fast, and I fuck with like slower things so long as they're not They're not like Primitive Man level slow. But I don't know if y'all know about Primitive Man. I know Alex does, but that's a wild ass band. One day, well, I might just pick one of those albums one day, but not yet. But yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I barely remembered what any song sounded like, but it was just chill. I think I like that. They started the last song the same way they started the first song, just to give that little continuity to it. Made it feel like I was listening to an actual album a little more. I mean, that's really all I have to say. I like the names of the songs. I like the art, of course. Album art matters.
Album art matters. That's a very good album cover, actually.
I recently gotten into typing random shit into Spotify and seeing what comes up, and then like if something just like off of looking piques my interest, I'll listen to it. I actually found 2 albums that I really liked that way in the past week.
Nice.
So, and it was both just off of the album art looking interesting, and if they would just had some lame ass album art, it wouldn't. Yeah, it catches my attention.
Here first, folks. You gotta judge every book by its cover.
Especially since Spotify is just a super big fan of fucking black and dark gray. Like anything that pops is gonna fucking pop.
Well, it's also just, I mean, just kind of expanding on that point. It's like if you don't know anything about the band at all, and you're just gonna like be like, oh, I want to, like, if you're in the mood for like, I'm gonna find something I don't know anything about.
Pick the cool one.
Like, you either pick the band name / song titles that sound cool, or you pick the cool album cover, or at least the most eye-catching one. Which I think is interesting, because I think just looking at the 4 that are based on colors, I actually think that Purple, in my opinion at least, is the most boring album cover of the 4, personally. Which really doesn't have anything to do with it, because, you know, they have 3 albums before it, and that's just my opinion. But actually not as huge of a fan of that one as I am some of the other ones. But these look nice. I wonder what kind of, like, if these are paintings, or if this is done graphically, or what.
I believe they're paintings.
They look nice.
Yeah, I quite like the purple one because of the arrangement of it, where they're like, they're not exactly like, you know, in 4 corners, but you know, it's got nice like symmetry to it in a sense.
I think the blue one looks the best. I think the colors on the blue one are the most eye-popping.
Right. There is a green album cover that you can't see on Spotify, but
I was wondering about that.
It's like if I'm pretty sure if you like buy a vinyl of it, it's like the both sides are the covers, right? It's actually just one big cover.
Because are Yellow and Green 2 separate albums, and they just have them and linked up on this, or are they?
I mean, they were.
It is a double album.
It's a double album release.
Okay.
That's, you know, it's one of the double albums.
The powers that be.
It's a double album.
Green
that,
as
like,
skinny bitches.
Makes a point of like having the 2 separate parts of the double album be distinct.
Separate. Gotcha.
But I would say it's like one album fundamentally.
Gotcha.
Cruz, how do you feel?
Yeah, what were your thoughts, Cruz?
Well, I think Ray's on opinion is a real thrower offer. So it's like, I think the first 2 minutes or a minute and a half is like just like their usual, like what they're doing in the album, like instrumentally wise, and it sounds really good. And then the guy starts talking, and I'm like, that's really just unlucky. So, and I think this album is the hardest one to listen to this week. I don't know, it just like it felt too long, and I just didn't really like it very much. I thought that the standouts were Isaac and Cockroach and Fleur, because Cockroach and Fleur actually made me feel like there's something actually going on with the album instead of being some mediocre metal album. I don't know. I think I'm just burnt out on metal. It either has to be like super, like, unconventional, and like, or like just loud, because if it's just like quality, I just don't care. Like, I don't really like. I want something that sounds different when I listen to metal, because I just listen to so much. Like, I want like a Zeal and Ardor. I want a fucking dinger, or I want fucking sleep. Like, I want it to be just like disgusting. Like, I don't want something that's just like, oh yeah, I listened to this and this is
maybe
good
you will
music.
like Primitive Man.
You really might like Primitive Man. I'm making note of Primitive Man.
Because it's just like, yes, this is quality music, but is it really worth it? Is it interesting?
For what, yeah?
Yeah, it's like, I feel like I'm just wasting my time when I can listen to something that's actually catching my ears. Like, this is just a drool fest, I think. And I think I've listened to Purple once and just really never got back to it. So I don't know. I listened to this one the least, and I tried to listen to this one the most because I think it deserved it, but I really didn't vibe with it. I don't know. Metal music is for nerds, I'm pretty sure. And if you're not, if you don't have the crab stance, because these boys don't crab stance, they're fucking out there trying to like play guitar instead of just holding the first fret on the top string and going dum, dum. What's what I'm really living for. So this is not what I'm down for. So
maybe you really will like Primitive Man.
I don't.
One thing that Cruz pointed out that made me think about something that I wasn't really gonna talk about, but I feel the need to talk about now. This album does one of like my least favorite things in, I want to say, almost all of music, but especially in like heavier genres of music, which is they have the one song that's never a full length of a song, and the whole point of the song is to just be not the rest of the album. Like, I think Cockroach and Fleur is like the worst song on the album. Like, I think that if the whole album was the sort of classical guitar-ish sound, the song would be fine. But it's the fact that it's like, here's 4 metal songs, and then a classical guitar break, and then 5 more metal songs. Like
I say interlude.
Yeah, but I just don't like the concept of, well, I don't like the concept of interludes, like, period, I think in general. But especially, like, there's a lot of albums that I really like a lot that has songs. Like, one of my favorite albums of all time is Still Hours in the Comatorium, Mars Volta, and there's a song that's exactly like this. Well, it's not a classical guitar song, but the whole point of the song is like, oh, here's just a little break, you know, we're going to pull a little fast one on you. It's not, you know, this doesn't sound like the rest of the album. And it makes me not want to listen to the rest of the album. Because it's like, okay, so you have a 10-track album that one of the songs is 1 minute and 50 seconds when the rest of your songs average somewhere in the range of like the high 4s to low 5 minutes. And you're just going to throw a 1 minute and 50 second like guitar jam in there. When it's like, okay, so you can play metal guitar and you can play classical guitar, cool, like make a whole classical guitar album if you want to do that. Don't just fucking put that on your album. And it really gets like there's a lot of albums have stuff like that I really just I would say 90% of the time really don't enjoy, because it just breaks out of, like, I don't want an album to break me out of what I'm listening. That's why I don't like skits and rap music a lot of the time either. Like, just in general, I don't want an album to break me out of what I'm listening to remind me of what I'm listening to. I'd rather have the album be like, okay, yeah. I'd rather the album have songs that work together.
Okay.
Like,
I get what you're saying, but and you know, I get what you're saying. I disagree with it because I quite like interludes if they are good musically, at least.
I just don't see the point.
But what I will say is that I do think that Cockroach and Fleur in particular is actually not as significant of a departure as you might think it is.
The guitar tone is different.
The first thing is, like, yes, it is an acoustic guitar, but it's not like it isn't. I don't think it's a classic guitar. I think it's just like a normal acoustic guitar, and like you can, and there is, and it's not just like, oh, here's like a kind of like classical playing section. There's also it's even like within the two minutes it remains interesting and relevant to the rest of the album, in that, like, you know, songs like Raison Pinion and Wailing Wintry Wind and Aleph and Grad all have like these intros that like all build up from kind of from like cleaner tones and have guitar playing that at times is similar to some of the stuff that you might hear in Cockroach and Fleur. And it's it's the only one of the songs that kind of adopt, like you could say like those songs adopt something of like a post rock or post metal structure that build up, you know, and like Cockroach and Fleur is just that without the metal part at the end of it, in a sense. Which, and the other thing is, you know, there's the section in the middle of it where the guitar playing has like a southern rock country twang to it, and does like this. There's like a bend. It's like really just like that. Just signals like.
Maybe that's why I don't
like
like it. Fucking Hicks.
but also the very end of it, it plays the lick that makes the basis of the ending track. So it's also a call forward to that. So I enjoy that song. I think it works.
I'm not saying that the album needs to be one thing, but I think that if you're gonna at any point switch up the way that you approach the sound of the record, it makes more sense, like contextually and musically, at least to me, to at least devote a full track length to that, or else it just seems like you're kind of like, it's almost like you're not confident enough to actually throw out like if I almost want to say that if this song was like 4 minutes long and it was this kind of thing, and maybe they had like another guitar and they're playing off each other or something, like I think it would have at least been more interesting, because it wouldn't have been such a one-off thing that I'm like, wow, there was a random like minute and a half to almost 2 minute like, you know, acoustic guitar like jam in there. Like at least it would have been like, oh, there's at least this acoustic guitar jam like track, and that was a track on the album. I also thought it would have been even more interesting if that would have been like the last song, because it would have at least like, it wouldn't have broken up what the fuck was happening, or if it was the first song. I think putting it in the middle is I don't know. I'm just not a fan of this type of approach to having music on your album, personally. I get the appeal, I guess, in general, especially if it's something that may have something to do with other tracks on the album, or maybe call forwards or callbacks in some way. But I think that on the whole, it's just not something that I'm a huge fan of or subscribe to as like an approach to
hit that
structure.
Bell button.
Yeah, I don't hit the bell on this. Just make a 9-track album.
Well,
I think you're right. I think it is an acoustic guitar, but the only reason I say classical is because it reminds me of like the sound that. Yeah, it reminds me of like a classical guitar composer, like something that he would have done,
right.
Like a John Fahey or somebody.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there.
What I'll say about this album is that I think the real strength of this album, for the most part, to me at least, is in the riffs. I think that the riffs, especially on like tracks like, I mean, really all over the album, but like, you know, the riff from Isaac is a standout. You've got the riff of The Birthing, which is like, it's polyrhythmic. You know, it's really cool. I like how it works.
What a fucking word. I haven't heard that one since music class.
The riff that opens Wanderlust's Baller, all the riffs on this, like, this is like riff showcase album to me, and it's like that's what I love in metal music, is sick riffs. I don't even care about like metal really being extreme in any way. I just want to hear the sick riffs, and so which you know, actually, like Purple, which I do like better, is a lot less of a riff focused album. But yeah, it's cool.
It's the red album.
We got one more.
We do have one more album.
We got one more.
We got the light.
We have the bastard child of the
we have the two worst members of the podcast collaborating for a fucking
God, that's fucking high praise. Thank you.
That's a sick collabo.
I'm glad that at least in the framework of there being two bad people on the podcast, it's not me. think some of the other members of the podcast might have a different opinion on who the two worst members of the podcast.
Yeah. I think I put it the exact opposite.
I don't like how you pick the only two ethnic minorities we have on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
When you said "you people," that really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, you might have to edit this part out. But the last album we have is "Being Nice" is still, or EP, I would say. "Being Nice" is still cool by Sledding.
It's an album.
Cameron is going to talk to us about it.
It is an album. Alright, so
if you say it's an album, it's an album. That's really all that matters.
Type shit. Being an album is still cool. It's the debut album by new metal band Sledding with Tigers.
I could have asked for a better intro myself. God damn.
So, here we have, how many songs? 10? 8? 8. We have 8 songs ranging from negligibly atrocious to, atrociously atrocious. So, going down the list, "Quit Your Job" is, standard atrocious. "High-Waisted Shorts" is big atrocious. "The Quiet One," a floppy disk worth of song, "Homeless," "Fudge and Run" are normal atrocious, standard. "Folk of the Punks" is big atrocious. And then "I Guess I Missed That Day in Elementary School Where They Teach You How to Be a Person" is only slightly atrocious. So interesting enough, the first time I listened to this, I was like, huh, okay, I kind of like this. And then, woo! And then the next time I listened to it, I was like, I'm not so sure. And then I listened to it again, and I was also not so sure. And I listened to it again, and I was not so sure. And I listened to it, and at some point I was sure of something else. This ain't it. So like it's like he says it himself in "Folk of the Punks." It's just HHJ but bad. Like he admitted it. Like I almost have to give him credit. Like he just had a song where it's just like, hey dog, I mean, hey, whatever, In the words of Earl Sweatshirt, "I'm too black for the white kids and too white for the blacks," except he took that and he made it cringe. And that line is already cringe if it weren't said by Earl Sweatshirt, but like anyone else says that, it's cringe, Do you know this man's name, Cruz?
I think his name's Austin.
Oh, fucking awesome. Fucking alright, so Post Malone lookalike, coming in hot.
Just because he's a Southern man doesn't mean he's a Post Malone lookalike.
Oh shit! I used that on accident. I don't know what he looks like. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe I can pull up a little like fucking.
He's got like a lumberjack beard.
Budget Man's Tiny Desk or something.
There you go.
Yeah. He's on Bandcamp. They have he's got like a lumberjack beard.
But
they're from San Diego. They're not Southern.
Fucking San Diego. Hey, I mean,
they're also not new metal.
I'm just saying. I'll tell you one thing for sure. Before anything else happens, I'll tell you one thing for sure. Nobody from the South makes folk punk music.
That's probably accurate. At least I hope.
That is 100% true.
Or else they need to be lined up and shot.
People from the South make a genre of music called folk. They don't sit with the folk punk. Let me just.
Yeah. Let's get this out of the way. Folk punk is just something that dumb indie kids say they are to make them sound like they're not just boring ass indie rock. Let's be honest.
AJJ's from Phoenix. Okay, so they're both not from the South.
Like literally, their use of the word folk is cultural appropriation, and I want them to die.
For those of you out there who may not be from America, just so you guys understand, even though technically, if you looked at a map, cities like San Diego and cities like Phoenix, Arizona may technically be in what could be constituted as the southern half of the United States.
They are not culturally the South.
If you go west of like the middle of, I would say probably just west of Texas in general.
Yeah, after Texas, it's
or
over.
You don't get, and even personally to me, I don't even consider Texas to really be part of the South. I really
Texas
think that
is its own beast.
I really think that once
you've
you get
never
west
been to
of,
Texas.
I don't think you understand. I don't think you understand that it's not a cultural thing. It's like just a historical thing because Texas isn't really. Well, anyway, regardless, I think that once you get west, I think that once you get west of about Louisiana, Alabama area, you start to cease becoming the South. But this isn't a geography class. This is about being nice is still cool.
So I wasn't done. So I don't have a job, so I can't quit my job. So I didn't buy. High-waisted shorts. Yikes! I don't know. Hold on. What the fuck does he say? He says some shit of she has high-waisted shorts. Okay, and then he says something about like most of all I like that she likes me. Disgusting. All right, I said
literally fucking. The other week.
Cruz
said something about Kissla's virgin core. This is Kissla's virgin core.
I'm not the one who picked.
Hey, you're not the one who picked it. Cool. And I've actually finally decided, based on the fact that this
I thought you were gonna pick the fucking Space Jam album.
But that's like the obvious bait, So I wasn't gonna go for it, I'm not convinced that one would be much better, But I'll never know.
It's not about her liking me, It's about we gotta save the planet from space aliens by playing basketball with Michael Jordan.
Cameron, do you want to give this? Do you want to give this man a chance to shine set the stage, introduce the band himself?
No. I already introduced the band. It's AJJ the Bad.
It's AJJ Light. It's got the ads.
Yes.
You gotta pay for premium. So it takes up data. You gotta really work with it.
So because the first time I listened to it, because I like the instruments are all right, and the first time I listened to the album, the lyrics didn't hit me yet, and then I actually like opened my ears and listened to like the words that were coming out of his mouth on high-waisted shorts, and it opened my eyes. So because that caused like a domino effect of like, wait, this song's lyrics are garbage. This song's lyrics are like the whole thing is just garbage. I only really realized it because of high-waisted shorts. And then Folk Up the Punks. Yikes! Like the song title, disgusting. Everything is just. It's just not it. And then I guess I missed that day in elementary school where they teach you to be a person. The chorus bangs, but the chorus can't save it, unfortunately. The chorus does bang though. I'm gonna plagiarize this one. Whenever I make a song, I'm just straight plagiarize that chorus. Because it works. But it can't save the album, and it can't save the song itself even. So this is a 1 because if the instruments were any worse, it'd be a 0. But it didn't fucking murder me. So it wasn't horrible to listen to. If this were like Russian or something, it would be like a 2. It would probably be a 3 actually. If it were if I just couldn't understand the lyrics, but yeah, being nice is still cool. I would agree, but I'm not sure about the rest.
Would you like to introduce your album, Cruz?
So, this is, I think, he's right that it's not folk enough for folk and it's not punk enough for punk, but I don't even know what you would call it. This is probably the roughest one. I think the demo
indie garbage
would be better, but I picked this band because it would be the most entertaining for people to talk about, and it's like, so I like Necessary Bummer. I don't really like it. It's still nice being cool, but I don't find it like horrible. But it is. I think if you don't like his voice, which is probably the worst part of the album, because strumming 4 chords is not abrasive because everybody else does it. And sometimes the woman comes in and tries to fucking help him out because he's really just struggling. And what I like most about it is it's just like he just does it, right? He's doing what he does, and he recognizes that it's awful, and he still does it. So it's really just respectable, and this is definitely something that would be polarizing. This is something that not everybody will ever know exists. It's that deep cut into why indie music sucks and why people don't listen to it. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. And if you do, it's not that bad. It's also not that good. But I do enjoy it. I think Necessary Bummer, the next one, is this, but better, less cringy, a lot less cringy. But if you don't like this, you shouldn't even touch it. And if you want some meme value or like something that's actually interesting, I think the one about Space Jam is actually decent, and there's a lot more thought put into it. And there's some nice lines. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's like summer camp songs that you don't want the summer counselor to sing, and he still does it. And I really respect that.
What'd you think,
there you
Jack?
have it.
If I didn't make it clear, the last song on the album is the only good one. The last song on the album actually slaps. That chorus is like baller, but everything else is actually garbage. Like straight garbage.
At least it didn't take 44 minutes, dude.
44 minutes is a very typical album length, and you didn't seem that salty about it. You didn't seem that salty about it when we were talking about it. So
they keep that same energy.
Yeah. Yeah. High Waisted Shorts is actually just Kissless Virgin Core. That song is just. Quit Your Job is like very low effort lyrics, and I don't care for them. I don't care for that song at all. I don't care for any of these songs except for the last one, which is actually pretty good. But yeah, Folk of the Punks. It's really just hits the nail on the head, right? You aren't like the idea that this is folk, like. I have not listened to AJJ, so I really shouldn't say that folk punk doesn't exist because I haven't listened to the actual folk punk band. But
The
I'm
problem
just
with a
gonna go
name
on
like folk punk is that nothing in the name folk punk actually explains what the music sounds like, because it's not like it's actually a blend between folk music and punk music, because it doesn't actually sound like folk music at all. The only thing that's folk music about is they have acoustic guitars, and that's not what folk music isn't. Just we have an acoustic guitar. It's a little slightly more complicated than that musically.
Yeah,
But
it's practically just punk with acoustic guitars.
it's not even punk. It's
sad boy
like,
indie music.
It's not my turn yet.
It's
some
not that sad,
bullshit.
but it's sad. It's sad boy indie music that's pretending to not be that sad. Like that's
It's worse than that.
Yeah, they do pretend to not be that
There's something
sad.
deeper happening here.
what is it? Give me the details.
You give it to us. I agree, but I can't put words on it.
The problem with a movement like the folk punk, like I would say explosion, because this is the kind of thing where, like, 5 years ago, I don't think anybody gave a fuck about what this type of shit was, but you have folk punk bands, or artists, or posers popping up all over the fucking place, and the problem with it is that it's extremely... One of the things that Cruz mentioned was that he like the part that with a guy who made basically within the confines of the album acknowledges that it's not good, but he still does it anyway. And Cruz respected that, and I think that is the most deplorable, worst thing about music like this, is that what happens is it's people who can't play folk music decide that they need to ruin a perfectly good genre with their own fucking just.
But it's not
shit.
folk. It's in the realm of folk punk.
No, but what they're doing is they are taking well-established musical, I can't say tropes really, but they're taking the influence of, we have acoustic guitar and we're going to be singing and that's going to be the instruments. We're not going to focus on drums really, and it might be a band thing, which is basis of folk, and they're taking the most non-folk thing you can, which is being a punk, and they're trying to put them together, but they don't commit to either of them. So all you end up with is dudes who can't really play guitar that well and can't really sing that well, singing about shit that they're only singing about because it appeals to people who have enough money to buy their shit. And I don't think that all music in this vein is bad. I think that one AJJ album is pretty good, and I not really have much of an opinion on the rest of it. I think there's some bands that are in this kind of department that are okay, but I think that what Sledding with Tigers does on this album especially, and just what this type of behavior means to the genre on the whole, is atrocious and disgusting. I want to give it a lower score than I like. And the thing, and God, one of the other problems with stuff like this is that you end up like there's nothing interesting about it at all, because the lyrics, like the music, isn't interesting at all. Like you're literally just a dude playing acoustic guitar, and you're not really actually you're not doing something different at every stage of the song. You're playing acoustic guitar. I hesitate to say passively, and you're singing, and it's like the whole point of stuff like this. What's the longest song on this album? 2 minutes and 49 seconds. This isn't an album. It's low effort.
It's an album for Smurfs.
It's low effort. It doesn't take anything to make music like this, and yet there are millions of men, women, and children in California and the Northeast, and Seattle probably, who eat this shit up and have never listened to a single punk song or a single folk song in their life. And the fact that there's a pocket of society that thinks that stuff like this is passable enough to use it as an identifier for them and what they believe as a person, frankly disgusts me.
What's the number?
Well, when I listened to it the first time, it was a 5 because it was inoffensive.
Right. But then it's like insidious. It's just like
what it is, and this is something that I've started to do more recently, which has ended up taking points off of a lot of albums that I previously had a lot of respect for and really liked. Was I started taking into account more than just the music. Like if there's an album that sounds good, but you think about the fact that the reason it sounds good is because they took the last album they made and then just did it again. Like that's a worse album because you're not doing anything interesting. You're releasing the same thing twice. So musically, 4 or 5 because there's nothing to it. There's no music. It's basically like listening to silence for 16 minutes. There's nothing to this. But the lowest rating I'll ever give anything is a 2 because that equates to a 1 star in the 5-star system. And I don't believe in giving half stars or no stars. Being Nice is still cool gets a 2 from me, and Sledding with Tigers probably doesn't get another listen from me. And if you're into folk punk at home, stop listening to it. You're wasting your time. Like listen to folk music or listen to punk music because this isn't either of those. And the only reason you like this is because the choruses are stuff like, my parents are nice to me, but I feel like I'm a piece of shit. And then they say it with no instruments and they kind of scream it, so you're supposed to yell it in the crowd. And then you think about what that means, and it's like, well, it doesn't sound great. At least AJJ is way more abstract than this. Like, at least there's a level of that. This is just literally like some
fuck
dudes.
White people. Fuck white people. Fuck.
This is like a dude's fucking. This is a dude's. So fucking bad. There's a dude's. This is like
right next to work.
This is like a liberal protester guy's diary about what's wrong with America in sung form. And you know what he's not doing? Solving it by singing about it. And you know he's not, especially not doing solving it by singing about it in the folk punk genre. Fuck folk punk. My favorite thing too is that people who are in folk punk also usually fall in the vein of anti-folk. And my favorite thing about anti-folk is that it's just folk music. There's nothing anti-folk about it. So stop appropriating American music genres that are actually good, and maybe learn how to make real music. Sledding with Tigers. Being Nice is still cool, but this album sure isn't. 2 out of 10.
I would like to thank Cruz and by proxy myself for picking this album because this has been the like the lowest rated album in the past 5 weeks.
Oh, that's what you wanted.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I can now
There you go.
march forward, stalwart and resolute. That the mantra of music appreciation hasn't got to me too much. I still do dislike things.
We can find more.
And
There's nothing to appreciate.
There
about
are
them.
horizons that we have not explored.
And I no longer feel the need to go back and listen to like the shit that I gave ones before, because they're probably still ones. And this is also a 1. It's a low 1 though, but I can't say that I hate it because like the music is too just aim out inoffensive. Like
It's not. It's only inoffensive if you don't know what's happening.
yeah, I don't have enough respect for folk as a genre to understand what's happening, but
Oh, you don't even have to have respect for folk as a genre. You just have to have respect for music as a medium of media.
Well,
Nah, I
don't
don't
the
respect
lowest
media.
form of media.
TV.
Media is something that you
TV.
get stuck in when you're in the feedback loop. You
type shit.
Music is the highest form of all creative process, and bands like Sledding with Tigers make me regret that.
But nah, just barely skates by as a 1. But what this means is that Jack, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, we're
What
talking
does-
about getting stuck in the feedback loop. And I'm like, the information action ratio, guys. And I was like, damn, the information action ratio. That's that fucking Arctic Monkeys song. 4 out of 5, and I got it. You know,
Jack.
the information action
Jack.
ratio. It's the place to go.
Mr. Obler.
know.
Shut the fuck up. So, interesting enough, since I do not want to cheat Alex out of a 5, and I also do not want to give myself a 1, I have this quantum conundrum that can only be solved by pretending that this week never happened. So I'm going to show y'all a little giazzo here of what's happening. So I know the audience, you can't see it. Too fucking bad. All right, whatever. I'm done talking.
I didn't mean to shit on Cruz so hard, but goddamn. If you're at home and you listen to Sledding with Tigers, stop. Listen to better music.
Oh, I'd have to agree. That shit's rough.
I mean, don't even listen to anything in this
It's so
genre.
good though, you know.
The fact that you're at home listening means that the people who make this think it's okay to behave like this, and they're not even from the South. And if you're a person that makes and creates folk punk music, and you live south of the Mason-Dixon line and east of the western border of Louisiana, stop.
Reach out
Like,
to us.
Reach out to us so
Yeah,
we can
so we can
shoot
listen.
you.
Yeah, what the fuck?
So we can murder you.
We've listened to the
Stop-
northern
stop
folk
it.
punk.
You-
we need to
you
listen
are-
to the southern
No.
folk punk.
You are
What
dis-
you're,
Oh,
what
you
you're
know,
listening
we will
to-
find it. We will find it.
Nothing in this genre is worth listening to. And
we
you out
will-
there,
we gotta
you could
find
do
it
a
now.
lot better if you just went and got a 2-year
Grey
degree
Face
and
has
worked for a
one.
big corporation, because your music's not solving anything anyway. That's all I have to say.
But if they work for a corporation, then they're giving into the capitalist hate machine.
Oh,
Yeah,
true.
and if you're not doing that, all you're doing is fucking girls who wear the same jeans they wore in 8th grade.
No, but if they if they work for the companies, they're just doing it to, to spite the companies, you know.
If they
Oh,
work
that's
for the
not-
company, if they work for a company, they might actually be able to make something of their life other than
Be
playing
as bad
shitty
as
music
their
for a
job
living.
as possible on
Yeah,
purpose
but
without
they're
getting fired.
sticking
If
to the
you're-
man.
If you're gonna take the struggling artist approach, at least make good music.
That's the best message you could possibly end this podcast on. Thank you for listening.